right, good evening, everyone. We're getting back into the swing of things, learning how to turn back on the recording devices so that we do this efficiently. But welcome, and thank you for joining us for our first meeting of the school year, August 20th. To get us started, I always like to do a roll call so that whoever is maybe new to attend is familiar with who's at the table and perhaps whoever is watching afterward. So I will start with the board members. I'm Deborah Shute, I am the chair. We have Dr. Thage Singh, our vice chair.
Present, Deb.
Jeff Fleischman, our secretary.
Present, thank you.
Lynn Katz.
Present, thank you, Deb.
Sarah Heath.
Present, thank you.
Nicole Russo.
Present, thank you.
Suzanne Zakaris. Chris Campbell.
Here.
And Ramesh Kandapilli cannot join us this evening. Next, I will move on to our administrators. We have Dr. Carnamola, our superintendent.
Here, thank you.
Mr. Giannini, assistant superintendent.
Present, thank you.
Mr. Medic, assistant superintendent.
Present, thank you.
Ms. Russo, our business manager.
Present, thank you.
And Ms. Sardenskis, our executive assistant to the superintendent and board clerk.
Now there, now there.
Want to touch again? Are you okay? Tom, we good? All right, thank you. We're just working out those kinks, so we'll be good. All right, if you wouldn't mind joining me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thank you. I will begin by reading our mission statement to remind us all of the work that we do here together. Our mission is to inspire in each student a joy and passion for learning and a commitment to excellence, personal integrity, and social responsibility. We don't have recognition this evening, which is one of my favorite parts, but we will have that in September. So we will move on to the order of business. Do I have someone to approve the minutes for the Board of Education special meeting on June 10th, 2024?
So moved.
Thank you, Lynn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Sarah. All in favor? Aye, passes unanimously with 8.
Yep.
Do I have a motion to approve the Board of Education regular monthly minutes of June 11th, 2024? Thank you, Suzanne. Do I have a second? Thank you, Thage. All in favor? Aye, passes unanimously again with 8. Communication from the public. Do we have someone? Are you looking? Okay.
Yes, we do.
Okay, so I will invite you forward. I'll just have to read the rules so that we get into the swing of things again. This is the section of our meeting where Avon residents have the floor to share their thoughts and/or concerns with the board. It's not an opportunity for conversation, rather it's the board's chance to listen to feedback from the community. If you've added your name to the list, Ms. Sardenskis will then call on you in order. You must state your name and address for the record. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes to speak. In an effort to hear as many of you as we can, we must adhere to this time limit. You can certainly state that you agree or disagree with a previous comment if you'd prefer to be brief. Brevity will allow more attendees to be heard. After 15 minutes are up, the board may choose to extend public comment or not. No speaker will include charges or complaints of a personal nature against any individual Avon Board of Education member or individual employee of the Avon Board of Education, whether the speaker names the individual or not. Please refrain from clapping or cheering. Ms. Sardenskis will be our timekeeper tonight. If you should reach 2.5 minutes, she'll alert you with a 30-second warning, and at the 3-minute mark, you'll be alerted again to signal that your time is up. We do welcome your engagement and participation. So, Christine, do you have someone?
Thank you. I'm Mark Buchanan, 1 Farmstead Lane. I should have no trouble keeping within your 3-minute limit. This is really a question about past, present, and future board and school policy concerning Title IX. As you all know, Title IX came through about 30 years ago, designed to reduce discrimination against women. It caused a great expansion of athletic opportunities, for instance. It was fairly non-controversial. However, the current Department of Education has just published hundreds and hundreds of pages of an interpretation of Title IX, which extends to sex the same protections for gender identity. This can sometimes bring in a conflict. This has been the subject of lawsuits all over the place. Currently, I think from an Iowa court, a judge has said, no, you can't enforce this until it gets all the way to finish, probably with the Supreme Court. So in the meantime, there are some divided jurisdictions. So the issue where it comes down to is where there is a mismatch between someone's sex and gender identity. And this gets us into issues of who can run in girls' track and who can do girls' wrestling and all those sorts of things. It also gets us into issues where you look at traditionally female spaces, changing rooms, lockers, showers, bathrooms. And this is something that the school boards really can't duck. It's not something that's fun, I'm sure, because you get sued if you do this and you get sued if you do that. So there's three situations. One is the past. The current is the second is our current situation where a lawsuit is sort of on hold, but there's some paralysis caused by it. And then there's the possibility, let's say that this law is approved at the level of the Supreme Court, it becomes policy. So my question is, what policies exist now, and has the board done any thinking about what it might do in the future? And finally, of course, are those policies public and open to inspection? So no, that's not a comment, that's just a question. And I think I made it easily in 3 minutes. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Buchanan. So we don't answer at this time, but I'm sure if you provide your email address or phone number, we can get back to you
Okay.
about
Thank you.
that. Okay, if you don't mind, thank you. Is there anyone else on the list? All right, all set. Okay, so we don't have students with us this evening yet as well. So we'll move to financial report with Ms. Russo. It should be brief.
Good evening. We are still closing out our books for fiscal year 23-24, and we did not have Finance Committee yet for this school year, so we'll have an update in September.
Excellent, thank you. So moving on to our committee and liaison reports, also brief, since we take the month of July off. Curriculum and professional practices, Lynn.
Yes, our first meeting is scheduled for October 29th.
Excellent, thank you. Finance would be me. Our first meeting will be September 10th. Negotiations, Suzanne?
Yeah, we're close to an agreement with the paras, the interventionists, and nutritionists, and we're still currently in negotiations with the teachers.
Thank you, Suzanne. Policy, Thage?
Our first meeting for the year is going to be September 24th, Deb. Thank
Excellent, thank you. Capital Region Education Council, I think, Chris, you actually have something to share.
I did. I went to the back-to-school block party, and it was phenomenal. It was packed. They had food. They had music. They gave out 12,000 book bags. It was a great day, and it was great to see kids just excited to go back to school. Yes, and our next meeting is the 12th of next month.
Thank you for making yourself available. Those are great opportunities to interact with kids. All right, as far as the chair's report goes, it's wonderful just to see all of your faces again. It really is nice to get back into the swing of things. Taking a break is always helpful, but it's nice to get started, and I'm seeing smiles, so I'm hoping you're feeling the same way, and you got rested, and you're ready to come back, because I think it's going to be a good year, so I feel very positive about that. And I do see some new faces, so I'll have to say hi. I'll come out there, but welcome, Mel, and I'm guessing Julia is sitting next to you. Yeah, okay. Nice to meet you, Ms. Barnett. It's good to see you, and congratulations. So other than that, I just wish you well. I will see you on Friday morning for convocation, too, but we are very excited to get this school year going, so thank you for returning to us. I will move on to superintendent's report.
Thank you. So, Christine, we'll stay here for now, Christine, and we'll do the first pieces. As you know, historically, at this first board meeting of the new year, and we're just on the eve of the new year, try to provide an abbreviated State of the Union, if you will, of the school district, where we landed last year, some highlights there, some highlights of what we know right now moving forward, and then we need to gear up to have a board retreat to talk through the blueprint again, the strategic plan again, and move forward from there. But first, we'll stay with the regular order of business, and Mr. Medic with the hiring report.
Good evening, everyone. This is our lengthiest hiring report of the year, 2 pages. First, I'd like to draw your attention to page 13 of your board packet. Over the summer, we did receive notification from 2 long-tenured employees of their plans to retire and enjoy the fruits of their labor in a lengthy career here. First,
Miss Alyssa Irvine, who's been a longtime school counselor here at Avon High School. She's been with the district for 22 years at the close of last school year. Had some very positive life changes happen and decided with her husband that they would rather spend some time in Cape Cod. We want to thank Miss Irvine for her dedication to Avon Public Schools. Her position was filled with an internal transfer. Miss Sarah Chaves from Avon Middle School has transferred to Avon High School. We do have a posting for a school counselor at Avon Middle School, and we've received numerous applications for Miss Wallace, and her team will be conducting interviews this upcoming week. In addition, Patricia Carpenter, also affectionately known as Trish, is a 30-year veteran paraeducator in Avon Public Schools, working in numerous schools throughout the district. Trish is transitioning to be a caretaker and grandma to some wonderful young children at home, and also notified us this summer. So we want to thank Trish for her 30-plus years of dedicated service to our special education students and all of our students in the district. As you know, earlier this spring, we introduced Miss Melissa Morgan Hostetler as the new principal of Thompson Brook School. We were able to hire an assistant principal as Miss Salvatore went to Roaring Brook School. So I'm pleased to introduce Miss Julia Barnett as the new assistant principal of Thompson Brook School. Julia, you want to just stand up quick? Julia joins us from Enfield Public Schools, where she was an elementary assistant principal there. Before that, she was a school and college and career counselor in Enfield Public Schools. She joined us last week and is excited to start the school year. I think I saw your first staff-wide email today, so that's when you know it's like official. We've had a very busy spring and summer. Our hiring process began in March with the notification of resignations and retirements. I'd like to first thank our building administrators and in particular our principals who led and coordinated dozens of interview processes. As the board knows, we do a multi-round process for every position. So there are a lot of logistics that go into organizing committees and screening applications. So I'd like to thank our building principals and our assistant principals who led that. In addition, we had several dozen parents, students, and staff who from March through the summer took time out of their day, either during the work or school day, or in the summer to volunteer to be on committees to help select educators. We've thanked all of them for their service, but I think it's important to know that whenever we make a call, our parents and students are readily available. We've had the football team come in after workouts to be a demonstration class. We've had parents leave vacation early to join us for processes, and we're very grateful for their support. With all the new hires that we have, I have to give special thanks to Monica Mates and Barbara Cardwell. They're two of our behind-the-scenes folks at Central Office. Monica's our HR specialist, and Barb is our payroll specialist. They're responsible for the onboarding process with all of our new employees. And this year we threw a wrench in the system and decided to go paperless. So some of our folks transitioned in our new system as well. So that was a big lift, but Monica and Barb are the first true faces that people meet and get to know in our district. We still have open positions. As I mentioned, we do have the certified school counselor position that is a permanent position with us. In addition, we are still seeking applicants for 4 upcoming long-term substitute positions for various medical leaves of current employees who will be returning. In addition, we are searching for quite a few non-certified folks. We are still in need of 10 more paraeducators throughout the district. We are looking and interviewing for a certified occupational therapist assistant, several interventionists who provide targeted support to students, and 2 teaching assistants. To members of our community who may be watching this at home, all of our positions are posted online on our district's employment page, and we are actively seeking applications for that. In addition, we are also hiring for 5 seasonal athletic coaching positions here at the high school and middle school for the winter and spring seasons. So busy season of hiring for us. We have a very dedicated, or very amazingly talented new staff. You see some of the resumes behind you that they completed, and we'll talk more about those shortly. But our certified staff joined us last week for orientation, which we'll talk about more shortly, and our non-certified staff joined us today. So it's been quite a busy spring and summer. We still have some more processes to finish out, so we look forward to introducing you to some new staff now and at our September meeting as well.
Thank you. On the enrollment front, we are still in flux. As you can see on page 14, we have students moving in, we have students moving out. We're in the process still of registrations in all grades, really. Kindergarten still, that has slowed down a little bit, which is what we expect at this point. But this still reflects not everything completely processed as of the time that we ran this. So better update as we get into next board meeting on the numbers. That's it. Go ahead.
Just a question about the kindergarten enrollment. Does this feel dramatically different from previous years, and could it, no?
No.
It just feels like the numbers are.
The numbers are different, but we do see fluctuations. You know, the decrease at Roaring Brook, there are other years that we have seen a decrease at Roaring Brook or at Pine Grove, depending on, it really is dependent on where the houses are selling, you know, what part of town the houses are selling. And it was beneficial to us in the long run because, as you know, we wanted to be able to, if possible, add another section to second grade at Roaring Brook, and because the numbers there were climbing. And we were able to do that by moving a full-time position from kindergarten at Roaring Brook to second grade, and thereby stabilizing the class sizes in both kindergarten and second grade. Yeah. It does look a little bit different with the new legislation around 4-year-olds and so on, but it's not tremendously different. The flip side of that is there are more students in pre-K than usual. That's definitely different. Thank you. So Christine is going to pull up, we put together just some, I'm not going to read you everything that's on these slides, and in part of that is so that for the record, we have it for anyone who may not be here and may want to see it later, and for a point of reference, but we just wanted to put together, as I said, kind of a state of the union, if you will, Christine, if you go through. And we, as always, we tie this back to our strategic plan, our blueprint for excellence. That said, this meeting always is a little bit different. A lot of this is operational when it's a heavy lift, opening a school year, closing a school year. So some of this you may not see directly feeling tied, the information that we're giving you, but still think it's necessary information for you to know as we move forward. So some of it will be just logistics and related to school opening, but also providing some updates around the blueprint. And they're not in order of the blueprint, as you can see. So that said, we start at focus area 4, which is our systems area, but that is the heavy lift in the summertime. So most of this already as the board, just kind of recapping where we landed in 23, 24. Our open choice funds, what we use those to purchase. As you know, that money is allocated to us at the end of the school year, and that's why we don't make those purchases until then. We had a number of conversations about that this year, every year, but this year especially as we went through the budget process being elongated. There were a lot of questions related to this. But we have at this point used it for the material, the new K-5 program, materials, software, and the professional development also related to the K-5 math program, and for Chromebooks, both replacement of some and the cycle of Chromebooks that we are replacing also. The other thing I think significant, we think are significant, may not look so significant when you see it on the screen, but the dust collector that we needed, some supporting text units, musical instruments, the kind that we keep at school, not for students that need them at school, larger instruments, accompaniment instruments. These were all budgeted for, but we held off in purchasing some of them because they were for the coming year. Capital and maintenance projects, as you know, we get off to a late start with this. And as a result, things are still going strong out there. Not sure that we're going to get everything done that we had planned on doing. And kind of might pivot to you, Susan, to talk a little bit, for example, about the roof. The Avon High School roof, and this is not what any of us wanted to have to come and talk about tonight, but I think we probably should update you on where we are there.
Yeah, so we, Mr. Ultimus and I worked in conjunction with the town. All the capitals run through the town processes and purchasing and RFPs. And we worked with them as soon as the budget was approved and got into their system to put out, to try to get the roof settled. We had a vendor, but they had dropped off of the state contract. And that is what allows us to forego an RFP process because they've already negotiated on our behalf and it is the lowest price you can get. So we tried to work with another cooperative that we do business with. We enroll with different cooperatives, MHGC, CREC, some other things to get that leverage pricing that always really benefits us. But this particular cooperative they were working with was going to charge an increased price for the roof. And
A large increase.
20% higher than it should have cost us. And in good faith, I could not approve that. And in conjunction with the town, we decided to hold off on that phase of the roof to hopefully the budget process will go on time this coming year. We already have this money set aside for this phase so that we can get an RFP out early in the spring to have the full process, make sure we get the best price possible, and then just do phases, hopefully the next 2 phases, and finish it completely if we get the funding that we need. So it just wasn't fiscally responsible to do it.
Reminders, we like our acronyms. Our RFP, request for proposal, it's basically we're putting something out to bid, which is part of a public process. And as Susan mentioned, one of the ways that you streamline that process and do not do that is when there is a negotiated contract with the state of Connecticut, which means the state of Connecticut has already done that on behalf of anyone, any public entity that might need those kind of services. So the roofing company that we were going to use was on that list of having been out to bid and the state approving the contract, which means you're going to get it lowest. Well, also, there's quality concerns and so on, just like if we did the RFP process ourselves. But with the timing being what it was, the dates on that, them providing those services and being approved through the state are no longer, and as you heard, they were going to charge more than they had originally committed to on the state contract. So it just is what it is now. Sorry, Jeff, go ahead.
What is the status of the roof? I know we've had issues over the years with the roof leaking and causing more damage.
That section is, we continue to do the necessary repairs, but I'm not sure that section was even the one scheduled to be replaced at this point. We think we have the leak under control into the monsoons. We had the last 2 weeks, and we don't have that leak occurring in the gymnasium right now. So we're very hopeful that that last repair that we did with the HVAC unit on the roof and the roofing company worked.
Okay.
So you see, these were all on the list of things that we were looking to do this summer, many of which can't be done until students and staff are largely not in the buildings. I want to pause for a minute here and say thank you to our custodial maintenance staff who, even shorthanded, have gotten all these projects done, started late, and really have been working hard. We're just about ready to go. Some of the buildings take a little bit longer because they're used more in the summertime. This is one of them at the high school. Roaring Brook gets used for extended school year. Thompson Brook gets used for camp. So we're not quite there yet. So sometimes that also means that we're still trying to limit access to the building, which can be upsetting because we have folks that are trying to get in here and trying to get classrooms ready and workspaces and so on. And in some cases, we still have to limit that, even right now, as we're trying to finish floors and so forth. But we're just about there. And thank you to all of them, to Miles, to Susan, to all the principals, the assistant principals. Everyone has been involved in one way or another getting these projects done. Mr. Connolly also from the school security standpoint. As you can see, we put more security film up on the windows. That was a part of the phased-in process. Carpet replacements, tile replacements, the mobile radio system, that project has finally cleared on the town side. So Mr. Klein has been helpful to us because, as you know, he was working that on the town side. We have our new radios. We got a little bit of training on them yesterday. That's going to be very helpful to us that project went through. We've talked about that in the past, but not very much recently. the repeaters being on the buildings for the signals and so forth, just like we have areas that are dead zones for cell phone service. Unfortunately, we also had dead zones for radio coverage, and that's not really something we want to have in a school, because in case of emergency, we want them to work everywhere, just like the police department had dead zones out in the community. So the new project helped with that, and hopefully now we are clear from end to end of every building. We're also now connected with the police department for security purposes, which is an upgrade and something was a part of this project. So we're excited to be able to move that forward, and thanks again, Tom, for helping us through that and all of the explanations that you've done of those things to folks like us that don't live and breathe in that world. Keep going for me, Christine. So that was the past. As we move forward, we have a couple of things we want to update you on for the coming school year. One of them, and I think, Susan, you were going to have Maggie speak to this, right? We have to make some changes to the breakfast and lunch program. Some legislation changed, and it changed quite recently. So we have to make some changes to lunch prices, for example. That is on the agenda tonight. I think Maggie's going to speak a little bit more to that. I think we'll wait until we get to there, but just be advised. And also, we're back to lunches are paid for, breakfasts are paid for, unless you're students that get free and reduced price meals. The good news for that is that now you get it directly, you're directly certified through the state. So if your family is in need of state assistance, it's shortened the amount of wait time, paperwork, and so forth for families looking to apply the same sort of benefits to school lunches. So that's helpful, we hope. Go ahead, Susan.
But the rest, and I say this for the public, the rest of the families that may not qualify directly, please fill out your forms. You have to fill them out every year, submit them to us so Mrs. Dreyer can go through them. So I just don't want to see families fall off because they don't fill out that direct certification. They don't qualify for that. They have to fill out the forms.
If you qualify for that,
Yeah.
great, it's easier. But if you do not, it doesn't mean you won't qualify for free or reduced lunch, so you should still fill out the paperwork.
Do the forms go out to everybody? At
Yes.
the beginning of the year?
Yes, it's part of the annual notifications. I think Jeff had a question. That was it? Okay. The other thing, just, unfortunately, we can't ever meet without me speaking, or us speaking to you about the budget. We, as usual, and this is how this works, we're always in flux, categorize it as making pivots to the budget. Here's where we are in a state of the budget and versus where we approved the budget back in January with projections of the future, back in May, June, and even July. In other words, the lines that are in our budget, you're going to see us needing to make some transfers and so on to cover some of what we've encountered since the budget was passed. For example, fluctuations in student enrollment, new students moving in that have different service plans. And on the flip side, there are students who move out of town that have service plans that may not need the same services anymore. For paraeducators, one-to-ones, for example. And no, we literally changed this probably about 3 o'clock this afternoon. The first one said paraeducators right now, as of this morning, it was 6. There was another change in enrollment. It went down to 5 just today. I could talk to you 3 days from now, and it might be 10, and it might be 2. We see that fluctuate through the entirety of the year, but I want to put it on your radar because right now we are 5 additional full-time paraeducator positions above what was in the budget. And we're in the process of filling those. I mean, we actually, as you heard Mr. Medic say, these are more of the positions that are actually not filled. So even though we need them right now, we're moving people around to be able to meet needs. The actual positions are still open. We'll have to move people to make sure that students get service hours or bring in subs until we can hire folks. We are in the process, as you know, of the new paraeducator, interventionist, and nutrition services contract. However, I expect we're going to see some resolution sooner than later there. We may have met for the last time today. So that might be helpful in moving this forward when there's an agreed upon rate of pay again for that association. The athletic trainer, we're going to talk about this tonight also. you must have an athletic trainer, period. It's the law. Besides that, you need it for students. It sounds to the public maybe like, we're bringing someone in that trains the kids on how to lift weights. Really, it's about, yes, they do a little bit of that, but really it's about seeing the students who may have injuries during a game, during meet. And we had a change. Our person is no longer with us. We had to go back out to bid for this contract, and you'll see tonight that that's above what was in the budget because that's what came back as a result of putting it out to bid again. The rates have gone up. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, but it's going to impact the budget because I think we're about $30,000 different, more than that, great. At least $30,000 different than what we had projected based on previous rates. And that we had projected it with an increase, but still it has gone up. So as always, we'll closely monitor the budget, make sure that we are living within the bottom line of it, asking for transfers wherever we might need that, asking for board approval wherever we may need to move funds to cover different expenditures, and we'll be bringing them to the Finance Committee and then to the Board of Ed as we keep moving. Go ahead, Christine. So this is a fun part. So these are not, for our administrators know this, but for the sake of the public, these are not their actual resumes hanging up there, lest anybody think that. This is part of what we do at new orientation, where we get together in groups. So we'd just like you to see some of the folks we have. These are 3 of our new folks at Avon High School. Another few. Middle school. So you see their names on paper. Now you can see their. There are 2 out here. Some of these folks were literally just hired in the last couple of days and joined us today for new staff orientation still. So go ahead, Christine. If you want, maybe you don't have to hear from me all night. Roberto, Jess, one of you want to speak to new staff orientation? That's the whole entire group of folks that we had hired that went through the entirety of new staff orientation with us.
So we are in the midst of new staff orientation, as Mr. Medic mentioned earlier. It's one of the most exciting times of the year for us because we know our new staff comes in with quite a wealth of experience and also some fresh ideas, some inspiration, some motivation for us as we move into the new school year.
Those dates are actually wrong. I just realized it must have reverted again.
It must have,
Yeah,
yes.
we
We've
were
been
having
fighting
trouble
these
with this
dates all day.
PowerPoint.
So what it should say there are these dates in August, beginning this Wednesday. And that was a little different. There's actually 2 start dates depending on the building that they're assigned to, because you may remember all of our K-5 staff actually came in a day early this summer to be trained in the new mathematics program. So we worked with their association to swap a day out later in the year. So they'll have a free day in March, but they'll get 2 full days of training in mathematics prior to the school year starting. That program will run all the way through to up till convocation later this week. And so it's 5 days really for that new staff to get to know our district a little bit, understand the portrait of the graduate, the blueprint for excellence, our strategic plans, and also for us to get to know them a little bit better. This year, all of our very busy administrators participated in the program, and we had 14 new certified staff and 8 non-certified staff who've been in attendance over the past week. So we provide quite a bit of training over this time, but they do also have some opportunity to work in their classrooms and in their buildings and with their new administrators as well. And again, not listing them all here, but some of the trainings include technology with Mrs. Ferry, getting to know all of the different systems that they're going to use here in the district, like Schoology and EduPlanet and PowerSchool. Some of our staff require team training, which is through the state of Connecticut. It's the early educator model to make sure that new educators have a strong foundation in teaching as they enter the profession. They will work at some point during the week with Jody Krasansky, our Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment on curriculum, and with Tiffany Fox and Lori Arnold on all things student services. And just today, they came together, certified and non-certified staff, with Tassan Hayes for our cultural competency workshop that took place right here in the room just a few hours ago. We spend a lot of time focused on the mission here. We want them to understand all that we're about as a district. It's some time to build relationships with one another. I still remember, my first hiring class, those staff that I was hired on with, and many people do. It's a time for them to connect with different department directors, whether it's Miles or Maggie or Susan or Jim, just so that they know their roles in the district, but also, as you've heard us speak about, we spend a lot of time in buildings. There's a lot of face time for us. And so we want you to know who that person is that's poking around in your ceiling or making you pull the fire alarm, Jim, as we visit your buildings. And then, as has been mentioned, one of our main activities is the tabletop resume, which you see hanging behind you for certified and non-certified staff alike. Complete those. So, at the end of the meeting this evening, if you'd like to peruse those, we've got a few highlights to share with you, but it's pretty impressive, the different individuals that we bring on board. That next slide has just a couple of highlights. These are totals. No one individual has 183 years of experience, but combined. Always interested, we always say, Dr. Carnamola always jokes that we feel boring sometimes reading these.
Very boring.
Because we're reading about people who've lived all over the world, including the United States, but you see Quebec, Spain, Egypt, Mexico. It's really impressive to see where some of these individuals are coming from. An experience in over 40 different schools across those countries, states, and districts. So when we talk about the excitement of hearing what they're bringing to our community here, they always have that wide variety of experiences in varying degrees. And this year, our most interesting one was a trained therapy dog specialist. So last year we had a scuba diving instructor. This year we had a therapy dog instructor. We do ask them after they learn about our district mission and vision to share what it means to them. And we highlighted this one as we thought it was just one of the best that we've seen. So some of our new staff together said that to take on the mission to them means to see the world through the eyes of their students and determine what brings the students joy and to help the students understand their true potential. And we thought, well, if they're starting with us on day one, we're in pretty good shape.
Thank you. And thank you for everything that you did, Jess, Roberto. I can't name every single person. You see them all sitting out there. Putting together the orientation is a huge undertaking for staff. It means all of us at one point or another are presenting. We're in front of them. We are coming in and out. There's Christine and Robin Addis and Monica and others from central office coming back and forth with materials and setups and breakfast. I mean, it's a huge undertaking for 5 days. And then the moment that's over, we get ready for everyone to return. So I want you to know how much I appreciate everything that all of you did to make this work seamlessly. The IT department has been there with us every day, making sure people's technology is working and they're set up. It's been a really good orientation, and so many of the folks we've hired have pulled me aside to say, wow, I've worked other places. Some of the people that are coming to us from somewhere else worked other places, it's never like this. I've learned a lot. I'm happy to have been here. So I think that's a testament to the amount of time and effort and professionalism that all of you put in. I appreciate it. Moving forward, speaking of other things that we've made time for. So as you know, we began a change with our leadership team, taking building level educators as part of the leadership team. So team leaders, department coordinators, teacher leaders coming along with us and helping us to look at our data, plan for the future, consider our progress toward our strategic plan. I told you at our last meeting, I believe we were about to have the first of those 2 days. That was June 13th and 14th. We had probably 60 of us together in the room, teachers and administrators. We started our instructional rounds training, which we're excited to undertake here. As I already said, we set some priorities and engaged in a lot of goal setting and collaborative time for people to start planning for the new school year. And then fast forward, just this week, Monday, is today Tuesday? Yesterday, yeah, yesterday. We finalized our plans and opening as an administrative team. Spent all day and a good part of the night together yesterday, moving this forward. Obviously, some of it's just reconnecting with folks that are gone during the summer. We have some 10-month employees amongst us. We had a little bit of fun together with a tag sale activity. You see, some of the pictures that you see here are those. If you can see the upper left quadrant, that's Miss Salvatore and Miss Morgan Hostetler, and what she has around her shoulders is an old checker board rug-ish sort of thing that she brought in to, quote, sell. So it's strategic planning, and this activity is one. There's team building embedded in it, but give you an example of some of what we do together. We're talking about we have to rebrand and share our portrait of the graduate. We've been working on it for years. How do we bring it back out to the entire school community as the plan we're moving forward for students in the future? And so we did this together as one way to talk about how you sell. And so the idea was, and it was Jess's, not mine, bring in something old from home, some personal item that you wish you already got rid of that maybe you could hope to sell at a tag sale or flea market or something. And we had to use some sales strategies to try to sell them. And there were a few that actually sold. We didn't bring any of them tonight. We thought about it. We sold them to each other, obviously, and took the donations were to go to Gifts of Love in Avon. So we've still got some silent auction going there. So some of the items, wow. So, yeah, we are. We are also, every year we try to do a book together. We're doing one that's a little bit different than our norm. Last year we did The Power of a Positive Team. This year we are doing a book called Work Like a Boss. So we are, so we'll update you a little bit more on that, but that's our leadership book club for this year. Thank you again to all of you as the team for all of the time and the effort that you put in to yesterday, because it's, as we're getting, I know it sounds like a broken record saying thank you this many times, but it's a heavy lift, as I already said, to pull off the opening of a school year. And when we're doing all of these things at the same time, we're all together, every one of us, every administrator in the building is together for, I don't know, almost 12 hours yesterday, right? We are trying to do this while we think about bus routes and classes and placements and emails coming in about placements and phone calls and so forth. So it takes a lot to focus in, and everybody did that yesterday. And I think we're going to be better for it, as you'll see, as we move forward with our strategic plan. So thank you again for all of that. And Jess, thank you for being the right hand in putting all of that together, because Jess is definitely the more creative one very often, as you know, can tell by the tag sale that went on. So kind of move forward into back to the blueprint. Obviously, the retreats and the orientation are directly related to the blueprint because they have to do with both the development of staff and the progress forward on the strategic plan. More directly connected to the teaching and learning focus areas, focus area 1 of the blueprint. I'll let you speak to just. We hit some of these already, but.
Yeah, continuing with the theme of mathematics this year. Obviously, we talked a lot last year about K-5 mathematics, and a big part of the work this year for the teaching and learning department is to look at the adoption of Think mathematics and developing roots. In fact, tomorrow is our kickoff. We have Sarah Schaefer joining us from methodology. She'll be leading the training over those 2 days here in the high school cafeteria with all our K-5 teachers. And throughout the year, we will be providing support for them. There'll be numerous professional learning opportunities. Our curriculum specialists will be hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder with those teachers as they implement this new program. And continuing that work up, we're going to begin some 6-8 vertical mathematics work. That's the plan here, is over a 3-4 year period to look at mathematics instruction from kindergarten right up through 12th grade. And we're doing that intentionally, stage by stage, knowing that each one would be informed by the latter. So what happens in K-5 will have an impact on what happens 6-8, and then up to the high school, and so on and so forth. So we're going to begin that work. All K-8 teachers will have job-embedded professional learning opportunities. So we'll continue with those lab days where teachers come, they meet together, they see a model lesson, and then they debrief afterwards. It's really one of our most popular ways to provide professional learning to our staff, because they see it happening hands-on with the students in the classrooms. As you are also aware, we are in the process of selecting a new reading program, K-3. And so despite our best efforts last year and numerous hours by Jody Krasansky and our curriculum specialists to write up reports and submit them to the state, we are moving forward with the selection of a new K-3 reading program. We have an aggressive timeline, so we're going to try to select a program by the end of November. And so we're going to be working, we received a state grant through Hill for Literacy. They're going to be partnering with us to help us look through various programs that would work for our district. As we spoke about last year, we're looking at mostly compendium options, so we can keep some of the programs in place that we currently have, but we do need to bring something new on board in the area of comprehension and vocabulary, so we're looking at those.
The programs that you're looking at for this unfunded state mandate, how does that look like it's going to be impacting our budget as we see it now?
That's a great question. So there will definitely be an impact. We do have some grant money, and that's one of the reasons why we have that aggressive timeline to make a selection by November 30th. Each program that we're looking at has different price points, and depending, they also have, they both have some aspect of the program that is open source, so you can look at some of the materials online. So it all depends on how much of the program we purchase, but there'll definitely be an impact to the budget. I just don't have that exact amount at this time, because it really depends where we land and what we select.
Remember, the ARPA Right to Read Act gave grant funds to districts, and that's what Jess is referencing, that we want to make sure we don't lose based on timing. But it's not enough to pay for the program, any of the programs.
So I think a couple months ago, I called this a scam. Are we still required to choose from the 11 predetermined state options that they've cut deals with these vendors, or are we allowed to truly go out and search for a program that was as strong as the one we had in place the state disagreed with?
We are required to select from those that are state approved.
Still, thank you.
Yes.
That said, though, because we are motivating and inspiring this year, we do believe that the work that we've done the past few years with our teachers have really been to turn them into reading specialists in the classrooms. And so we are very hopeful that whatever program we select, those skills and the approaches that they learned over the past few years are just going to be delivered through a different platform. So some different books, some different teachers' manuals, but they know how to teach our students how to read. And so we're going to be working really hard to not let go of all that good work, just to do it, again, with a different set of materials.
My comment had nothing to do with the quality of instruction in this district. I am very proud of the quality of instruction. My frustration is the state is refusing to acknowledge our teachers as professionals and feels that we have to hand them workbooks, and that's the best way to educate our students.
Okay. So I thought the way you chose your math program was brilliant. We're not going to be able to pilot a couple of different programs, or might we be able to do that?
Not in the same manner that we did with mathematics. The way Hill for Literacy works with us as a district is the group, we will have teachers working with our curriculum specialists, our reading consultants, and our building leaders. And what we'll do is as we look at the programs, they will actually be assigned one of the 5 areas. If we think about the science of reading, comprehension, vocabulary, phonemic awareness, phonics, and they will actually dig deep into one of those areas, and they'll be able to try some of those materials out within their classrooms. And so as small subgroups, they'll become experts on those different programs and the subcomponent of it. So there'll be some trial and error, some opportunity to pilot. It won't be a full scale like it was for mathematics.
And it's been a long time since I taught reading, but are these programs kind of scripted the way the old-fashioned programs used to be scripted, or you're saying yes? I don't know if that's true. Or is there more opportunity or plenty of opportunity to use classroom libraries and independent reading and all of that? That's still part of
Those
our
opportunities still exist.
workshop?
In fact, that's, one of the things that we do through this process is we identify what our core beliefs about reading instruction are, and so we're only looking for programs that still provide those opportunities. Is there more structure than there would be in what we had in our own curriculum? Yes, but as I said, we're still hopeful we can parlay those skills and approaches that we learned over the past few years and just use them through some different materials. Could you go back, Christine? I think I lost mine. Okay. Aye. No problem. So the last few, again, are things that we're always focused on here in terms of teaching and learning. In the area of curriculum, so we have an aggressive timeline in place to try to get all of our stage 1s complete by November. That's our shared district goal. And then we will be working to complete stage 2s and 3s by the end of the June 2025. A lot of that is to prepare us for our NEASC visit the following fall in September, October of 2025. So we're going to be working feverishly with Stephanie Lockhart and her staff at the high school here to get all that work completed and brought to you by the end of this school year. We'll continue to focus on world language and wellness instruction that has been going on over the past 2 years. So that's quite a bit of curriculum work that's going to be taking place this fall and throughout the school year. Dr. Carnamola mentioned instructional rounds, so that is, for those of you who are not familiar, instructional rounds really begins with a question of inquiry. So our staff and school leaders will develop something they're curious about. How well are we asking higher order thinking questions or using small group instruction? And teams of administrators and teachers will go out and they'll visit classrooms and they'll really look, to try to answer that question. And then we'll continue to work on embedding the portrait of the graduate into all of our daily lives and work here. And then, of course, as we mentioned at the end of last year, we'll be rolling out our new teacher and administrator evaluation plan. We're pretty excited about those changes. We do believe it's going to get at the heart of teaching and learning and improving the student experience and also lift some of that burden from teachers and administrators, not just be endless paperwork and checking boxes. So we're excited about all of those changes this year.
Thank you. I'm going to wait for Christine to restart it because we had to restart the presentation. Okay, thank you. Oh, you're ahead of me. We were having trouble with this. We were having trouble with this reverting back to a previous version, and we haven't figured out why. We thought it was because so many people of us were working at it, maybe undoing something, I can't say. Anyway, one thing I want to go back to is the right to read ARPA funds so that we're clear on, again, I mean, we've talked about it numerous times, but on the dollar amounts and what it can be used for, Susan.
Yes, so the dollar amount is $99,000 that we've been allocated, and it can be used for the resources to purchase an approved program.
99,000. Thank you. Okay, so focus area 3 of our strategic plan, is school climate, student connectedness, These are just some of the pieces, some highlights from the previous school year, from 23-24, that we had as action steps related to that. Again, I'm not going to read all of them to you, but these are in large part the efforts of not only Tucson, but Haynes, but also school administrators, our faculty, our staff, much of the required training that we have to do. As you see, some of them are on here: anti-bias training, restorative practices, and I say utilization because the training is required for the utilization of it, and we had done much of the training previously. We're now kind of just catching people up every year, but utilizing it, actually putting it into play, has taken work on the part of all school staff. And Tucson has worked hard as the open choice liaison to foster some new connections with Hartford families, and to right down to delivering backpacks to students that have been donated. We have a partnership with Rotary that has been nice this year for the first time. And so I think we've moved forward quite a bit on some of those pieces, in particular our connections with our open choice families and students. You go to the next one, Christine. So that's a highlight from the previous year. Moving on to the 24-25 years, some of what we know that we are going to need to keep doing. We did the biannual surveys, remember, this spring. A lot of data came from that. The schools are working through it at present. We're working through it as the district because we surveyed students from grades 3 to 12 and families. So coding data and so on and so forth will bring some of that forward. We've all looked at it and have an initial bird's eye view of it, but we'll talk about that more in depth when we're finished going through it. And of course, we need to continue on with some of the other things that we're somewhere in the middle of, some of which are also required, many of which are also required by law, such as the educator diversity plan that the board, legislature required boards to adopt. We turned, the board voted on that as required. You remember, we turned it into the State Department of Education. And at this point, we have not heard whether that's been approved or not. So we're just moving forward, hoping that it is. CAPS, the Superintendent Association, sent out an email to us of the plans that they knew had been approved, and I believe there were only 4 or 5 on there that I saw from the entire state, so I'm not sure where we stand yet, to be honest. But what I can say is, remember, we asked for an extension to turn it in because of when the board meeting date was. I, as the superintendent, I was unable to turn it in until I could prove that the board approved it and give the state of Connecticut the date. I couldn't even do the online submission. So we had to ask for an extension. We were granted an extension in April. We were about a week off by the board meeting. You approved it. We turned it in the next day. And anyone who turned it in not on time, we were told, has gotten no word. So that it may just be that. But anyway, keep moving
What
forward with that.
happens if it's not approved?
I don't know.
Okay. I probably asked that question originally too, knowing myself.
I don't know because I can't even call anyone to ask yet. It's a conversation we're all having amongst ourselves because right now we know who was approved and we don't know everyone who was not and what that means. We know that generally speaking, it means that they are supposed to give us feedback about things that we should change for it to be approved. And the law requires it to be approved by you as the board and then the State Department of Ed. So I assume what's going to happen is we're going to get an email back from the State Department of Ed to me that says, this has been approved, yay, you, or this is not approved, and here's our feedback about the reasons why. And then we'll have to revisit it and probably bring it back to you. But that's just some of the things that we're doing. And on a less mandated sort of level, some of the other things that are in here are, as I already mentioned, our Open Choice Student Support Plan. Moving forward with that, we've I attended 2 meetings with folks from Open Choice over the past month, talking about the future of the program and meeting some of the new people, because there are a lot of new people in the school choice office. Also, we're continuing to try to build, and this is This is one that could go in our communication and partnerships piece or in the school climate connectedness. As you know, we're trying to continue to build bridges with our own community also. Local synagogues, the Farmington Valley Area Muslim Center. We have some partnerships with churches in town, just in ways that we're trying to support students. You know, obviously, when I say that, understand there's separation of church and state, of course, but we are often looking for partnerships to support students from different backgrounds and so on. So one of the things that we all do, particularly Tassan and or I, is meet with some of the leaders from some of those places, especially in times like we've been going through, where there's so much turmoil in the world, and we've seen what that means for students at school. So having those connections to outside entities for them has been good. And that's it. We'll continue our professional development. Anyone who needs any of these mandated trainings related to cultural competency or anti-bias training, we do through orientation and then throughout the year. Go forward for me, please, Christine. Thank you. That is the last of the official, seems like a lot more than we had anticipated, but that kind of always is the way. Any questions that maybe I went through something too quickly, you don't understand something, want to revisit something that we just talked about?
I had a question way back at the I don't know if this is on yet, the paras. Just out of curiosity, so there's 5 more than anticipated.
As of right now.
As of right now. Is that 5 more, how was it projected? Was it based on last year's, the previous year's number, or did we kind of
Yes.
pad it a little? I was just curious.
We don't pad.
Because
no.
I know it fluctuates so much.
But we project it forward when we know of the need. So
The
we are.
current need and then,
Right,
yeah.
so thankfully, Lori Arnold, Tiffany Fox, Susan, and Jess, Roberto, me, we all work closely together on this. As of the time we do the budget, we are already looking forward, knowing maybe an individualized education plan might be changed, and we can see that coming, so we try to make those adjustments. But still, we can't account for all of them, in part because people move in at various times during the year, and if a child moves into the school district and their plan calls for them to have a one-to-one para, that was not one that would have been in our budget.
And so the bottom line is there are more students currently that need it
5 more.
beyond last year.
Yes.
And it's required to
Well,
have those paras.
I want to be clear about that. It's
Okay.
not necessarily 5 more, because there's a fluctuation, because there
Some
are
moved
also
out.
students who moved
Right.
away, or whose needs changed. Maybe we
Right.
changed their IP, maybe there's different programming for them, and they may not need that one-to-one support anymore. Either way, the first place we go is to just move people. So if I move out of the school district as a student and Deb was my one-to-one para, as soon as I move out, we know there's another student that moved in that needs one, we're going to move Deb to that student. And now we're going to still net 0.
Right,
We do that as much as we can.
Right.
So we are net 5 right now.
yeah, okay.
There has been fluctuation. There have been people that have moved in, there have been people that have moved out, there were students that graduated, and yes, we can project that forward in the budget, but still not always, because
Right.
students who can be on transition plans from 18 to 21 that might remain with us and still need some supports, sometimes something changes even after we project forward and they leave us sooner than we expected, or they don't leave us
Right.
when we expected. So
Okay.
there's a lot of variables there. Right
Thank
now,
you.
it's net 5,
And
more than we
required
budgeted for.
Positions.
Because remember, when we do our budget, our line by line is literally the
Yeah.
positions that a person is in, and rolling them forward to next year because we know we're still going to need them in that position, or it is a projected vacancy without a name or a person attached to it. So we're in the process of updating Bridget's IEP, and we know as a part of this team that one of the recommendations is going to be that she has a paraeducator. We're going to project that forward if we know it before we finish that budget. We're going to put a line in that says projected vacancy, and we can match that number. It's not public information, but we can match that number and that line back to the student that we're attaching it to. It would be a lot easier, obviously, if there was just, here's a line that has X amount of dollars in it for when these things happen.
Yeah.
That's not how we do budgets,
Yeah.
because we're trying to be fiscally responsible. with funding, and we tie it to something. But it makes problems, as you know, in the budget process.
Question to clarify, are those 5 positions part of the 10 that we still have to fill? It's not like 15 that we have to fill.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, generally speaking, yes.
Correct.
Yeah. We still may have to move some people around if we can't fill them, but net, that's where we are. Because we're also dealing with who's resigned, who's come out, you know, we play a game of very involved chess for a while, moving folks around, particularly to start the year. Other questions? Any of that? So thank you for supporting us through the end of a school year and the beginning of another. I'm going to check the calendar, and I know this is just more meeting dates that you might need, but kind of back to our public comment tonight, one of the things that we do need to do for you as a Board of Ed is legislative update. And so there's legislation that changed as recently as August 1, some of which actually was what was brought up tonight that we, you as a board, need to have a conversation about and get the advice about moving forward. And then subsequent policy committee meetings to further discuss and to move some pieces forward. In absence of policy, as you know, what I always say to you is we follow the law. So that's where we are right now. Right now, it's moving forward, following the policy that is in effect, and if there are any tweaks that we have to make to that in practice, investigation standards, things like that, we will make sure that we're doing them because we can't, besides the Board of Ed, we can't put ourselves in jeopardy of violating the law as public employees. So I'm not saying we're doing X, Y, or Z that you don't know about. I'm saying at all times, you know that if they change a law before we get to a policy, the law supersedes whatever the policy is that's in place. And they have made changes to Title IX regulations. The State Department of Ed has issued that, not in its entirety to us as a new updated piece of guidance yet. Remember the one that I sent out previously? But the law firms, as a result of the changes that have been made, have made some recommendations to those regulations being changed, and those need to be discussed. And it's not just that policy, there are others.
So my question, in the interim of that, before we vote on something or see a policy, who has seen the law from the attorneys saying how we should be, or how the schools should be doing this?
We have a model quote, you know, how they update model policies based on the law. That's all we have right now is a red line version of the recommendations. And by we, I mean, I have it, Christine has it. We haven't even gone. That's a very involved policy and regulations. It's long, there's a lot in there, and there's a lot of recommended redlining and blue additions to it right now. To be perfectly honest, we haven't even finished going through the whole thing.
Because, yeah, and then I guess a follow-up question that I have, I know, you know, from what I've read, there are lawsuits still pending in different courts. So what does that mean for us as a district to be compliant within the law or someone's interpretation of it while things are still, I don't know, in limbo?
Yep, I think that's, we know that too, and I think that's another reason that we need to have the legal advice of what that means. I'm not going to, I'd give you the answer if I had it. I don't want to speculate about it because I don't know. I've read a lot about it. I've read what's come from the attorneys on paper, but we haven't had other discussions, and I think that we need to do that. But that's not that's not the only one. There's other changes to legislation like there are every year that we have to know and understand and possibly revise policies around, and there's a list of those policies. This is one, these regulations are one. There's pieces related to school lunches, there's pieces related to finances, there's legislation that was passed. I got this phone call today, speaking of mandates, one of the pieces of legislation that was passed late in the session was to establish, the legislature commissioned a board, if you will, to look into the impact of state mandates, funded or unfunded, either way, on public school districts in the state, and legislators can, by virtue of the committees that they're on and so forth, can appoint people to them. Our state senator from Avon and former board member, Lisa Seminara, called me today because she is one of the people that has someone to appoint to that board and asked if I would do it, and I agreed to do it. So we'll see where that leads us. You have to wait now. It's a legislative process. They'll actually go through an appointment process, and with my information and whoever else, whichever legislators, are asking to be on this board. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm on the legislative committee at CAPS also this coming school year, so I think we're going to have a lot of conversations around how state law is impacting finances and operations, and there's positive ways, and there's also negative ways. So hopefully something comes of that.
So quick clarification, understanding that we're waiting for legal guidance on new legislation, is it your path then to go with the status quo, our current policies in place until we have better legal guidance?
Yes, only if it's the actual law, Jeff, has changed, and
Because the question is not actually about a law change, but
No,
an
it's about-
interpretation of a law.
it's about the regulations that have
So
come.
we're going to
yes.
maintain the current policies and the current law until we get further legal clarification on any interpretations of laws.
Yes, I will say, I haven't made it all the way through, so again, I don't want to speak out of turn, but some of the changes that have been recommended are really not that drastic, really, than or different than what's been in place. Some of it is just in the language. But again, I haven't made it through the entire thing. So,
Thank you.
that's it for me. Thank you again.
Well, we thank you for being willing to sit on those boards, because we know how valuable your perspective is. So thank you for representing us in that way, and all students of Connecticut, frankly. Before we move on, I do want to just point out, keep an eye on your emails so we can schedule a board retreat. So that is something that we can look forward to doing.
And also the legislative update.
And the
I spoke to your attorney today about it and asked her for dates that would work. I do think, I could have said this anytime, but I might as well say it now while we're all here together. I think we should make sure that all of the board is together. Remember, I think in a previous year, we had to split because of the times, and that was difficult because board members asked questions in one session, not the other, and I think we really have to try to get everyone together for that update if we can. And she'll do it virtually to make it easier for you. No, we're not. No, not at our retreat. Nope. No. I'll keep, we won't be together for 12 hours. We'll get straight to business at ours. Thank you.
Also, we do have convocation coming up to start our school year off on Friday morning. I know you probably responded to Christine, but let me know if you're able to come. I will be there, and then I'll keep an eye out for you as well. It's always a nice way to start the school year. All right, moving on. Our consent calendar is full of our non-affiliated contracts, which we typically would have already voted on in June if the budget had passed on time. So we are approving them this evening after the fact, now that we have a budget in place. So if there aren't any questions, do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar as is? Moved by Suzanne. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Sarah.
Just to be clear, these are no different than what the board agreed to. I know you all know that. I want to say that publicly. It's why you're not discussing them, because they were
Correct.
previously, they just didn't make it to the agenda.
And we have the
We're
privilege
waiting
of seeing the contracts, and they are online as well, so. All right, so I have a second by Sarah. All in favor? Aye, passes unanimously with 8. All right, thank you. Old business, now we go back and return. If you remember, we had discussed these new texts when the school year ended, but we had 30 days of time for the community to look them over. Does anyone have any questions about those? Because we would be voting to move them forward this evening after the 30 days have concluded. You do? Okay, go ahead, Jeff.
So I probably asked this back in June. These textbooks are the ones from the suggested state curriculum, because this is.
From
this-
UConn.
From UConn. This is not the state Asian studies, maybe I'm confused.
It's
I'm sorry.
recommended by the state,
Okay.
and then we are using the curriculum and
That's
the
been given to us
option
by UConn.
through UConn,
And this is
correct.
going to be an ECE course then?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So these are the texts recommended from UConn in order to receive the ECE credit?
UConn made a recommendation of these texts, yes, that these are the ones that would be used.
Because when we did the African American and Hispanic studies, it was very prescribed.
Prescribed,
And
'cause
this one is not.
That's the only one.
There's more flexibility within this one because part of this course also encourages you to look locally and tie in, things from the surrounding community. So there's some flexibility in the text there.
Great, thank you so much.
Any other questions? Jess, did you want to say anything about them?
Nope. Just that based on the way this fell, they've remained at central office for public review all summer. And so we're looking forward to utilizing them this fall in the course.
Thank you. Lynn, would you like to make the motion?
Okay, so I make a motion to approve the new primary instructional materials for the Asian American Studies course.
Thank you. Do I have a second? All right, Paige, all in favor? Aye, passes unanimously with 8. Thank you. Now, under new business, we are having a discussion with possible action on revised Avon Public Schools calendar dates. Is this you, Jess?
Oh, yeah, you don't want to hear any more from me.
All right.
So this has come out of several conversations from us at a district level with our building leaders. One of the things we're always up against is, we have our staff here for a certain number of days each year, and we try, as we spoke about in updates earlier, to pack quite a bit of learning and opportunities in. And one of the challenges with scheduling is various activities that are happening in the school, not the least of which is one of the most important things that we do, which is parent-teacher conferences. Currently, the way they're scheduled is all of the buildings have different weeks for parent-teacher conferences. And while that may not seem like a scheduling nightmare for us at the district level, it generally means that for the month of November and March, with a little carryover, it's really challenging to pull teachers from the building because they are focused on what they should be, which is meeting with their parents and families to give them those important updates. It also means for families with children in various schools, they have conferences that fall over multiple weeks. If they have older siblings who provide, babysitting in the afternoons, that creates a challenge. So the thought here is that we would pull all of the 5 schools together in one schedule. Those conferences would fall on the same days in December and March, which are provided for you in the packet. And there would be so it would take us from like 8 half days during those months down to 2. And that would open up quite a bit of flexibility for us. Again, we talked about, like, for example, those math days with the labs. Right now, we lose almost 2 months of really flexibility in scheduling those. This would really free up the calendar and provide some efficiencies. In addition to this, we're also going to be looking at one district-wide platform to schedule conferences, so that way parents with children in multiple buildings, and that's about a third of we did run the data, it's about a third of our families here, they would be able to go on one platform, whether they have a preschooler through a 12th grader, and know where their conferences are, so they make sure that they have an opportunity to visit the schools.
Go ahead, Nicole.
So you answered like the first question that came to my mind. Last year I had 3 kids at 3 different schools, and while the different half days for like 2 months was a lot of fun, it's also trying to schedule the conferences between those. So for this platform, will everything be out at the same time from every school and every teacher, so parent knows to go on this website at this time and can plug in their conferences?
Correct. Yep, we'd release it to the whole district at the same time.
And will there be some sort of flexibility for the parent who can't get that buffer time from one school to the other, or even I'm thinking like working parents who need the nighttime slot, the evening time slot to be able to get to multiple schools? Has that been thought of?
Yep, it has, and that challenge exists now. Many of our teachers meet with parents over the phone, before school, after school, to try to accommodate. But certainly the hope would be that, the family would know when they're scheduling those conferences at the various schools, and the times would line up. So then, as they're the schedule, they could select those times, which would give them some travel between buildings. Yep.
I have a similar concern. It's particularly, it's one thing at the elementary level where you have one main teacher. But if you have a student both at the high school and middle school, you're looking to meet with 6 to 12 between two children. Is there enough time in the half-day for a parent to meet with all those? And then if not, is the system going to have a method to make that request for either an alternate time and so forth? And then do the teachers understand that reality of it? Like, there is the possibility you're going to have to do additional alternative conferences because there's just not enough time for them to see all their teachers, all their parents, and all the parents to come to the two schools.
Well, so a couple of pieces there. One is most of the teachers, when they do that now, they're swapping out a conference block. So they're meeting in the morning or after school some days, and they're doing that in place of an existing block. In terms of the system's capability, I couldn't answer that for you yet because we don't know which system we're going to land on. But some of the requirements for us is that it would create that flexibility so the family could see it, they would know, and that the schools could adjust. Because they do that now. They have to put out their own conference blocks. They look different at Pine Grove and Roaring Brook than they do at the middle school, so that it would at least create that flexibility to have the various times, as you talked about, so they can meet with all of the teachers.
Thank you.
I think generally speaking, the systems all typically have a click here if none of this works for you, but you still want to meet or speak to someone, and it sends the notification to the individual.
And this has worked successfully in other districts, right? Yeah.
I'm sure it's just growing pains.
Well, I think there will be, yeah.
Yes.
Jess, do you know if there's online options for parents? There are online options?
For conferences?
For parents, yeah.
We do still
Yes.
offer that for parents who would prefer a virtual. And yes, Mrs. Russo just reminded me, there's some cost savings to this as well.
It's an added bonus, not at all.
It's not why it
Thank you, I appreciate
It's
that,
not
too.
the strategy for why we're doing this, it's just an added bonus.
So these are half-days, correct?
Correct. There would
Okay,
still be the 2 half-days and the 1 evening for the conferences, yes.
So can I suggest that we should put that on the calendar, unless I'm missing something? But I think it just says that it's conferences, but it doesn't say.
It is
Half day.
yellow. It
That'd be
just says
great.
important school event, I guess. It's hard to read the yellow versus yellow.
The dark yellow.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes,
Half day.
we'll do better with the color. The color's not translating well. We'll do better with the half-day color.
Yeah,
Yep.
important school event.
Yeah, we'll,
Anyway, that's just my,
it's the other yellow, yeah, we'll
Yeah.
fix it.
thank you.
Good questions. Any others? Thank you. All right, do I have a motion to approve this date revision for our school conferences in December and March?
Conferences were always orange before, so should I, do you want to keep them orange or do you want them to be because they're half day? Do you know what I'm saying? All of them were orange?
Or maybe we just
We'll figure it
clarify
out.
that those days are half-day, like down below
Yeah.
when we write it?
We'll figure out how to make it more explicit.
Yeah, thank you, though, Christine. I like the attention to detail. Good. All right, do I have a motion to put this forward? All right, thank you, Lynn. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, Chris, all in favor? Aye, passes unanimously. Thank you. Our next adjustment will be moving the Board of Ed meeting from June 17th to June 10th.
This is 2025,
Yes,
obviously.
this school year. I don't know did anybody have a chance to check their calendars, if there were any issues with that?
We have found that making sure we have a board meeting before the school year is over is necessary. And, anything could happen with snow days, but as of right now, it is definitely after the school year ended just the way that it fell. So we realized it after we did it.
It's also nice before graduation.
Yes, because we can tie up loose ends.
Any questions or comments about that? All right, do I have a motion to approve moving the Board of Ed meeting from June 17th to June 10th, 2025? Okay, Nicole, and I'll take you, Thage.
Thank you.
All in favor? Aye, passes unanimously with 8 again. Thank you. All right, next is a possible action on the athletic trainer contract for Avon High School. We did just receive this tonight. I don't know if you or Susan wanted to speak to it.
I think Susan will speak to it,
Okay.
and I'll apologize that you didn't get it until today, but as you know, this was a last-minute change,
Yes.
and we had to do the process, and we literally just got back. Susan has been hounding folks for days, and they gave it to us just before this meeting.
just
And
for-
thankfully, because
Yes,
otherwise
and
we'd have a
for
problem.
clarity, there was no intention behind that other than being clear that we received it now, so
Yeah,
it's fresh.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Correct. I just want you
Yes.
to know, we would have had it to you sooner.
Of course.
So just to get everybody up to speed, we go out, as we talked about RFPs a little bit earlier, there had been a request for proposals on our RFP with our previous vendor a few years ago, even before I started. And last year, the tide had started to turn with athletic trainers and being in another shortage area when we talk about the inflation and shortages in all different industries. Athletic trainers are one of them. So the past school year, we had extended our contract with our current vendor. We had that option in the contract to extend it. We kept our rates static. And with all intentions, because we had a good relationship moving forward with that, extending another year. That particular vendor decided not to respond to any inquiries to extend the contract. And then we found out late in the day, very late in the school year, that in fact they're walking away from it right now. And they had lost most of their athletic training staff. Our trainer that worked with us at Avon High School, he pretty much found out at the same time we did. So it just wasn't a good situation. They weren't paying their folks, no comment there, but just what their folks thought they should be paid, and they've decided to all walk away. So they couldn't staff it even if they wanted to extend our contract. So that left us in a situation where we had to put out an RFP. We did, no one responded. So we reposted the RFP, and Mr. Philon, our athletic director, called around to other districts, found out who other people were using, made a few phone calls to try to get some folks to actually respond to the request for proposal. We received 2 responses. Our request had put out for a 4-year agreement with some specifications. Both responses we received were only for 2 years. One of them was less fruitful than the other. So I'm recommending we go with advanced physical therapy. The physical therapy and sports medicine are new to the business, so to speak, of working with schools and didn't quite have as fruitful of a proposal. Advanced physical therapy works with a lot more districts. Mr. Philon's aware of them. And in fact, we believe that our current trainer, who changed, will actually be returning to Avon High School because he moved to this other company. So we've had very positive feedback from all the other districts he spoke to in reference to the company. They offer some good services in terms of conversations with athletes, opportunities to do some push in terms of training, as well as what was required of their athletic training services to help our injured athletes and to be there for game coverages. The main difference you'll see between the 2 contracts is that additional trainer. The second proposal of physical therapy had wanted to put in the contract basically a minimum cost for that second trainer. We only need that in seasons where we're split game days between Fisher Meadows and/or Buckingham and here at Avon High School. In talking with Mr. Philon, we will of course provide a trainer as necessary, but we don't need them at every practice, right? Especially if we have one on campus here at our secondary location. So we felt it was more fiscally responsible to pay a per diem, which is proposed in the advanced physical therapy contract, rather than lock into something we may not use. So that was number 1. And number 2 was when I called Advanced Physical to talk to them about the proposal. They offered to go to a 3-year, and I explained our budgetary situations, trying to negotiate, of course, a lower cost. They explained their margin was very low. They have almost no margin for the cost, but they were willing to delay $10,000 of year 1 to the next 2 years, to extend the contract to 3 years and delay that so that the hit to the district in year 1, the difference between what we budgeted and what the cost was lower than what we had originally thought, which they had originally proposed. So they're proposing $65,000 in year 1. We budgeted $32,000. $80,000 in year 2 and $80,000 in year 3. And talking to other districts, this is the going rate. We will not find something better I will go, of course, go out to RFP again as soon as this contract's over, keep my ear to the ground with my peers, as Mr. Phelan will do. But it's a shortage area. These folks work hard, and this is their wage now. And this is what it costs to have a trainer on board.
I had a quick question. Is if the trainer, if we bring this person on per diem and they are unavailable for whatever reason, are we responsible to pay for a sub, for example, or does this company?
No, so the way it
provide?
works is they're contracted to provide us with one trainer from 30 to 35 hours a week, depending on what season it is.
Okay.
If we request a second trainer for an off-site, we're billed per diem for that. They will always provide the trainer that we have
Okay.
contracted
Okay.
for.
So that per diem trainer could be someone different every time or so forth.
But
But-
they'll do their best, to keep it a stationary person. Our
Right.
everyday trainer will be the same,
Okay. And you said they would be here 35 days a week, 35 hours a week.
30 to 35,
Right.
more in the football season. And
Yep.
with the understanding, they bill us basically for 30 hours a week, knowing that football may require 35, but winter season may require less, so it balances out to be 30 hours a
And the
week over the term of the contract.
Trainers open to all sports.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. It's just that football has a lot more drain on the resources in terms of the fall season.
Lynn?
Still a little, excuse me, a little confused. So these are doctorate level positions, right? These are physical therapists who have their doctorates in physical therapy?
This is a trainer. It's not a therapist, it's the trainer
Okay.
overseen. So they're overseen by the Physical Therapy Association.
I see.
I'm sorry, the business of the physical therapist. They have that overseen, but the trainer
I
is
see.
an athletic trainer
So it's-
that's here.
Okay.
Every
And
day.
when it says doctor available, that means a medical doctor or a PT, or,
A medical doctor. So some football games,
Okay.
Mr. Feinland was looking into it with the CIAC, whether or not the physician as well as the ambulance is required at football games. That's really where we would have the MD. And we had in the past have the MD, but not every district does that. So he's digging into what's best practice there. But we have to have an ambulance, we do, and we have to have a trainer, and this
Okay.
will ensure that.
so the 65,000 is just kind of a baseline, or are we going to end up paying more every
Yeah.
time we need to?
Yes.
Okay. Could be a lot more, or we don't know.
I did some math earlier, and if we were, I basically, if the 22,000 that was proposed by the other quote would cover 97, an average of 97 games at 3 hours each, by no means would we use anywhere close to that, which is why we made the decision
Okay.
not to pay the set amount, rather to use it as a per diem.
Okay. Thank you.
So does this trainer need any specific certifications that are different from working, say, at a gym?
There is, they have a full resume, and it is specifications. I don't know off the top of my head. I don't think Mr. Feinland's here tonight to go through that. Mr. Medic may.
These individuals are certified athletic trainers, so they go through their degree preparation program. They're certified licensed medical providers that are overseen by a higher level of care with the physical therapy. They deal with your basic injuries from a Band-Aid to emergency triage of orthopedic injuries on site. They obviously pass that along to advanced medical care. Oftentimes, the doctor that is at a football game is an orthopedic surgeon or an orthopedic doctor, because bone injuries are more common and prevalent in that sport. Regardless of the provider or which organization, as a former athletic director, this is invaluable to have. I can take every first aid CPR course, but when there's a compound fracture, having someone who deals with joints and injuries and bones there makes a big difference for the needs of that athlete.
Any other questions?
I was going to say, and does that in some ways protect our school and district from,
Yes.
It does.
What you're about to-
It
yes.
does,
You know.
because these individuals have certification regarding head injuries and concussions, so if they suspect a head injury, they remove the student, they will not allow the student back into play. Oftentimes, if they treat a student athlete from another school, they'll send documentation and paperwork with the coach or the parent with some basic information of what was done. They work in partnership with some of our concussion protocols, so they do a lot of the assessment, monitoring. They'll do the clearance for returning. They also provide some basic physical therapy services for students who may be injured and need some type of recuperation or some type of assistance as they go on. So it's a lot more than just taping an ankle and having, some Band-Aids around. These folks really do provide a pretty high level of care to student athletes.
So if we're playing with another school, they have their own.
At this point, I can't speak for every district in the state. It is fairly uncommon to not have an athletic trainer.
Because our plans.
Even some of the smaller school districts that may not have a comprehensive service like this, there are services that you can schedule per diem physical therapy or athletic trainer for contests through a service, very similar to how we schedule referees for games as well.
Lynn, I believe, were you asking if the opposing team gets injured, our trainer would help them?
Yeah,
And
sometimes.
vice versa, yes.
Right,
It depends
because
on
we don't
sport.
send our own on every bus to every.
It completely depends. Sometimes we do send our
With them.
athletic trainer to away football games. There will be multiple trainers there. Oftentimes, if it's a soccer game or a basketball game, our athletic trainer would provide service to the student athlete from the opposing school as well.
You'll also see them watching the games because they watch for the injuries. If they witness it, they know better how to treat it, so.
So just kind of piggybacking off, will there be games where there are no athletic trainers from either school? And if so, like, how is
There
that
are the
determined?
possibilities with the robust athletic program that we run here. We oftentimes run multiple sporting events at the same time, varsity and sub-varsity. There are times that the athletic trainer may be housed here at the high school, but will travel to Fisher Meadows or an off-site as needed for support.
And that's where the secondary comes in, where if Mr. Feinland determines that's an event that it's required and it's off campus at Fisher Meadows or Buckingham, and there's games occurring here, he will contract then for that per diem to fill in.
Okay,
And
and
you
if there's more, is there ever like coordination with the other school? And if so, if we are using their athletic trainer, are we then open to lawsuits?
No.
If it's
No,
not ours?
no.
Okay.
No, we do sometimes coordinate for neutral site tournament games. Also sometimes if we host a CIAC event or a CCC event, the per diem fees for the trainers are covered through those organizations.
You'll see
And they're
there's
required to be there.
And there's contract language to deal with tournaments and holiday games and Sundays and stuff. It's all within the contract.
Which is why, back to when we started, before we really got into the thick of it here, as I said, it is required. How you do it in a school district, whether you're paying them per diem, whether you are contracting for the entire year, those are business decisions that we make. But you do have to have an athletic trainer at least some of your games and events, whether it's yours or it's someone else's. They do have to be present. And remember, backup as another example, state legislation, I think 2 years ago, required the updated response plan for heat, stroke, injuries and so on. Remember, we had to discuss that, and the staffing for who would be at which events. That's something that, no, an athletic trainer is not at every one, but there has to be someone at every location trained in certain aspects, AED, CPR, first aid, and so forth. So our athletic director and athletic directors at other schools are continually shifting around to make sure that a person and the equipment that's necessary are at those places. And
All of our-
sometimes there might be someone here that can get somewhere else quickly if there's an injury.
All of our athletic coaches are trained in first aid,
Right.
CPR, AED usage.
So as long as
It's a-
they're there,
It's a
it's the
state
equipment.
requirement.
Right.
So again, it's from the lowest level of care being the first responder, an athletic coach, to an orthopedic on site or an ambulance. We have multiple levels or tiers of emergency services available.
The bottom line, we're doing the best we can to be fiscally responsible with it, and that's why Susan negotiated it the way that she did, but we have to have one.
So Susan, you'd like us to approve this contract, is that correct?
I would like you to approve that one, yes. That's
In
what I'm
the
recommending.
nature of negotiation, Suzanne, do you want to make
Hold
a
on one
motion?
second.
Oh,
Sorry. Dr. Carnamolo, you have a plan for where the extra $30,000 is coming from?
Well, these are what we're going to talk about at the upcoming
Okay.
Finance Committee
Gotcha.
meeting, and where we might need to make some transfer requests from. For example, we have not been able to hire, as we expected might happen, the technology teacher at the high school. We had someone resign due to health issues and some personal things going on very late in the school year, at the end of the school year, and that's a very difficult position to fill. So right now, we are making changes to the schedule to allow for that, and that's an example of, as long as that remains unfilled, that might be one example of where
Thank you for that.
we may have to put off purchases of other items that we planned it. We'll have to have a conversation.
all set?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Suzanne?
Sorry.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the athletic trainer contract for Yvonne.
Do I have a second? Okay, thank you, Chris. All in favor? Aye, passes unanimously with 8 again. All right, our final new business item is possible action on 24-25 revised fee schedule.
You know, I just want to pause 1 second. I forgot to say something, sorry, through the chair, related to the last item. When we get into the budget season, we always talk, there's always a lot of questions every year from everyone, for good reason, because it's all, a lot of these items are lumped into one line, contracted services. So when we're talking about increases to the contracted services line, athletic trainer is one of the pieces in that. Ambulance fees, referee fees for games. Those are examples of things that are in contracted services, things that we have to have that we don't keep on staff. We don't keep it, we don't own an ambulance. We're going to pay the fees for them to be at the games. We don't have our on-staff athletic trainer. We're going to pay that through contracted services.
So when I ask, you'll remind me of this conversation.
Well, it is, it's always a question. It's for everyone.
Thank you.
Sorry, just wanted to make sure we put that out there.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you. I think we have learned what to highlight more often. All right, Susan.
Thank you. And I believe in May, when we first talked about the fee schedule, I mentioned that we need to wait till the end of the school year to talk about lunch prices and breakfast prices for the new year, depending on how we land it for the year. Mrs. Dreyer will probably do a much better job than I will explaining it, but this comes down to a state mandate, state policy, talking about paid lunch equity formula and how she figures out what we need to charge. Mrs. Dreyer?
So this is to be in compliance, to be clear, with updated mandates as a result of legislation and shifts at the state. Yeah,
We might need you to come to the mic.
please,
Yes.
thank you.
I'm sorry.
One thing I did want to mention, just to add to what you said earlier, Dr. Carnamola, with returning back to the free, reduced, and paid system, the one thing that is different, that families who qualify for reduced meals will receive them as free. That was the only thing
Thank
I
you,
just
sorry, I
wanted to
should have
mention.
been more clear about that.
Paid lunch equity is a formula that the state requires us to do to figure out what to charge for lunch prices. And what it's based on is what we receive federally and from the state for free meals. We have to charge at least that and more too. They want to assure that we're not using those funds to cover paid meals. So there's a formula that we have to do. It's legally required for us to do. Last school year, we had an exemption from that because we happened to have a fund balance and we didn't feel we needed to raise lunch prices at that time. So when we did the formula at the end of the year, we were quite a bit below where we needed to be because we had we decided to take the exemption. So therefore, we had to raise prices this year in order to comply with the paid lunch equity formula.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maggie.
What we're recommending is breakfast go from $2 at the intermediate through high school level to $2.25, breakfast from $1.50 to $1.75, and then lunch has a tiered system, but the main hot lunch is $3.50 to $3.75. And you'll see a quarter difference in the different tiers, panini lunch. And the milk price also went up 10 cents from 50 to 60 cents.
I'm just wondering if we compare these prices to other school districts. And I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice. but-
Yes.
I
Are
think
they
Maggie can
comparable?
probably speak to that also.
Yes, I did a survey of other school districts. You may not also realize that I oversee three school districts. So they're the same in all three. And I also surveyed the schools in the area in the same DIRG that we're in. And we're not the highest, but we're also not the lowest.
Any other questions? All right. I guess as finance chair, I'll make the motion. So make the motion to adopt the 24-25 revised fee schedule. Do I have a second? Lynn? All in favor? Aye, passes unanimously. All right. Do we have anyone else? Thank you, Maggie, we appreciate it. From the public for comment? No? All right. Communication from Avon Board of Education members. Anyone? Lynn?
I hope I don't lose my voice. I'm losing it, but I'll try to just say that when I look around this Board of Ed, many of us, in fact, over half of us, have been educators or are educators. So we're very familiar with that end of August, right before the first day of school dream that you're getting, we're all getting. I still get it, even though I've been retired forever. So, where you don't have any lesson plans and the bulletin boards are empty and the technology doesn't work, you can't find your room, your attire is not appropriate, all kinds of terrible dreams. So I'm guessing all of you around this table and out in the, yep, you're shaking your head, yes. Just remember that is just a dream. I am 100% sure you're all ready. You're more than ready. You've been working so hard, and we appreciate that. And I just wish you all a very joyful and a very smooth opening, first day, second day, and beyond. And I really look forward to hearing about all of your successes at our monthly meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Anybody else?
I think those are called nightmares. I just wanted to thought we were going somewhere different with that. Those are
All right, if there are no other comments, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All right, Chris, that was quick. Second?
Second.
Sarah? All right, all in favor? Passes unanimously at 8:47. Thank you, everybody.